Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Fallen London. Today we are going to be looking at September's exceptional story, The Damp Martyrs. As always, at the start of a new story, I'm going to remind you that there will be spoilers ahead, and if you want to play this yourself, please feel free to support Failbetter and become an exceptional friend, where you get access to one of these stories every month, access to the House of Chimes, an expanded card deck, and an expanded action candle. So without further ado, let's jump into the story. A gleaming hansom pulls to the curb beside you. A uniformed woman leaps down and snaps off a salute. She passes you a gold-edged envelope, flashes a second salute, then vaults into the cab and peels off into traffic. Ooh, we can open the envelope. It smells like money. Does it contain money? Lady, please forgive this informal method of contact, but it was imperative I reach you as soon as possible. We have not met, but you have been recommended to me as a person of talent and discretion who can solve problems others cannot. I will of course compensate you for any assistance you can offer. Please call on me at your convenience. The address listed is an affluent avenue at the end of Lady Bones Road. Oh, we need to travel to Lady Bones Road to continue the story. Well, I am currently in the Empress's Court, so let's move to Lady Bones Road. Here we are. Damp Martyrs. Absent family. An impassive butler admits you to a sumptuous parlour. You get the impression that if this household spills tea on the chaise, they simply buy a new chaise. An imposing woman, the sedulous financier, sweeps into the room. Her outfit is a surface import, a seasonal gown from Paris, set off by a cropped jacket and understated brooch. Her hair, however, is a little dishevelled. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I'm really most grateful." Two options: get straight down to business, time is money, as bankers presumably say, or compliment her parlour. A little flattery usually smooths things over with the gentry. We're going to go with the subtle choice here. "What?" He looks around as if seeing the room for the first time. "Ah, yes. I have a man who handles the cosmetic details. Yes, I suppose it is nice. I don't spend a lot of time here." She sits down and gestures to another chair. "Please, sit." The butler drifts up with a choice of teas and finger pastries. The woman waits with poorly concealed impatience, whilst you make your selection. "I am a senior figure in a bank whose name will be familiar to you. My daughter is a willful child in her 18th year, and she's gone missing. We think she's been kidnapped by a fanatic group called the Circumcellion Brotherhood. I would like you to retrieve her." She passes you a recent portrait of the girl. In it, the pugnacious inheritrix wears jewellery and silks that would be the envy of her peers. In capturing her likeness, the artist has been obliged to include the sullen cast of her jaw. This is not a young woman who likes having her portrait painted. "It's been a week now," your hostess says. "We expected a ransom demand, but there has been nothing." Okay, well, let's ask about the daughter. A willful child? Momentarily, a rueful smile colours the banker's face. "Yes, she would hate me using that language. I'm sure I was exactly the same at her age. It's hard for me to remember that she's almost a woman." She looks out the window at the carriages of Lady Bones Road. "Her childhood seemed to pass so fast. I always meant to do more with her, take trips and so on. But honestly, she is so stubborn. She will dig in her heels for no other reason than to stymie my plans." Perhaps one day she will cross paths with the constables, and I will no longer be the authority she must resist. She looks at you, suddenly vulnerable. If only you can get her back. Let's ask about their relationship. Did anything prompt the girl's departure? She has not been happy for a while. I have tried everything. Personal tutors, new outfits, bigger bedroom, dance classes, in any style she wanted. For a while, she had her own phaeton. She drove it off Hood's Bridge. It wasn't an accident. She just wanted to watch it sink. You inquire what they have done together lately. The banker shifts on her chair. I've been very busy with some prestigious new accounts, she says. The Admiralty banks with us, of course, and they appreciate the security implications of having my daughter in the hands of these pirates. In a way, the first Sea Lord came to me with this idea of a task force. It's nothing major, just 3 ships, I think. He sighs. The same security concerns prevent me joining the task force personally, which is why I would like you to go as my eyes and ears. You can infiltrate spaces a uniformed sailor cannot. You can act without charts and formal reports. Please, do this for me, and be assured I will pay you well. Bring home my daughter. Oh, we can agree to pursue the matter. You will go to sea to rescue the pugnacious inheritrix, or we can leave things ambiguous. You're not sure if a naval task force is quite your style, but no, let's agree. A naval task force sounds incredibly interesting. Your hostess slumps in her chair. Thank you, she says, with palpable air of relief. I will make sure you are well paid for your work. I dare say a professional like yourself will want to research the Brotherhood first. I haven't seen the bishop for a while, but he may have some insight. She stands and grasps your hand between hers. I'm really most grateful. Here is something to cover your initial expenses. The contents of the bag are not the subtle currency required for an investigation of this nature, but they will certainly cover any financial outlay. 5 ostentatious diamonds. Oh, we're going to start off by researching the Circumcellion Brotherhood. If you intend to help the financier, there are a few possible sources of information in London. Ooh, we can ask the Admiralty. The Admiralty does not entertain casual visitors, but you have an inside man. The Rye functionary? We can ask around Wolfstack docks. Sailors love to talk if you have a little money for drinks. We can ask around St. Fiacre. The diocese represents the cutting edge of Nethi technology. Or we can ask at Southwark. Religious violence is a familiar theme for those who remember the campaign of '68. Let's just start with the Admiralty, because we have an inside man and they're bound to know something. The Rye functionary shakes his head. The Circumcellion Brotherhood was tolerated as long as it was a single rogue ship. Frankly, I think some captains enjoyed the opportunity to repel boarders. Good for crew morale on long trips. But now there are at least 2 ships out there, and they're bothering small ports. The Navy is forced to take action to protect London's shores. He looks at you sideways. If there are hostages on that ship, there's a good chance they will end up at the bottom of the ocean. Okay. Well, let's ask around Wolfstack docks. A syphilitic parrot is thick with rowdy old sailors who are already 3 sheets to the wind. You find a few quiet pipe smokers in a snug up the back and offer to stand them around. Upon mention of the Circumcellion Brotherhood, their calm facade dissolves. She cracked me over the head while I was gathering in the nets. One cut my tiller rope and dared me to strangle him with it. He came at me with a whole shoulder of salt pork. I mean, don't waste it. They call aggrieved friends in one by one to recount variations on the same story. A thirsty queue forms. After an hour, you slip out of the lavatory window. Ah, the most professional way of leaving a pub. Right, let's ask Saint Fiacre. The bishop is entangled elsewhere today, but a young cleric is willing to stroll with you in the grounds. As I understand it, the Circumcellion Brotherhood are trying to find a shortcut to martyrdom. It's really very technical, more so here than on the surface. He gestures at the false stars. Suicide is a sin. Does that change when one doesn't truly die? The decision to remove oneself from the light is not ours to make. And in attacking others, the Circumcellions risk breaking the Sixth Commandment. It's also rather antisocial. Do they technically become martyrs? He shrugs. Then he looks at you and grins. We've had some wild nights debating this, I can tell you. Interesting. Well, let's ask at Southwark. The Bishop of Southwark is in a stormy mood. A nimble verger hovers at a respectful distance, springing forward each time one of the Right Reverend's expensive gestures knocks a fragile relic from its plinth. Upon hearing your query, the bishop peers at you through lowered eyebrows. Circumcellion Brotherhood. Interesting lot. Some of them sort of have the right idea, although I wish they'd concentrate on bashing lumps out of the devils instead of ordinary sailors. There's no back door to heaven, though. They have to walk the same hard road as the rest of us. Calmer now, he moves off, with a thoughtful stroke of his beard. The verger looks to the ceiling and mouths a silent thanks. Okay, well this concludes our research. There is a limit on what you can learn here. You hear the blast of a horn from the naval dock. It is answered by two others. The task force will be leaving soon. If you intend to join them, you had better get moving. Two frigates and a corvette prepare to leave their moorings. It seems unlikely that a boat of religious fanatics could elude this much military attention. Well, we can find our berth. An orderly checks your name and directs you to the frigate HMS Termagant. Its sleek lines radiate patient, elegant supremacy. This will take you away from London for a while. You stride up the gangplank. The fresh kiss of salt air fails to mask the sense of decomposing kelp and bilge water. You have been allocated a single berth cabin with a surprising amount of room. It's not up to the standards of the Royal Bethlehem Hotel, but it's not bad for the Navy. It seems the financier has influence. From outside, you hear sailors haul up the gangplank. Another blast of the horn and the docks begin to drift away. As Termagant clears the harbour, the floor vibrates and the engines rise to full speed. You stroll the deck of the Navy frigate, gazing across the inky wash of the rolling sea. Around you, enlisted men snap to their stations, keeping everything shipshape and Bristol fashion. So what options do we have here? We can play cards. At any time of day or night, one shift is off duty and board. We can exercise on the deck. There is a refreshing, cool breeze. We can study ship operations. There's always something to learn. Or we can plunder the stores. Ship's rations are on the bland side. And this is a coastal patrol, not a 3-year voyage into the unknown. We can spare a little. We can take a watch. What do we need for this? We need seafaring. We don't have seafaring. Oh no. I did look at getting seafaring outfit, but I don't think I got it. Damn and blast! I should have done it. It's one of these, like, one of the skills that I don't quite understand in Fallen London, where they add on to your character depending on what gear you have. I think they're relatively new. I could be wrong. I don't know. All I have is mythocracy from a ring I have, and toxicology from a follower, I believe. Yeah, seafaring is a new one, and with the update to seafaring, it could be quite interesting. The map is now implemented, and you can just set a destination and go. But yeah, I have been distracted here at this point. Let's exercise on the deck. The deck is long enough to get a good sprint, and at certain points there are overhead handholds which enable you to get a full body workout. Gradually, you learn the points in your circuit where you are most likely to encounter an unexpected crew member. You run, leap, clamber, and swing yourself into a healthy sweat. Sailors pass good-natured comments about your monkey-like abilities. By the end, you have incorporated a daring rope swing, which throws you far out over the waves at the stern. Good lord. Been Sinbad out here. Let's study ship operations. There's always something to learn. A warship is like an inexpensive watch. It requires constant repair. The crew are kept busy tarring, greasing, oiling, varnishing, painting, scraping, and scrubbing. After a while, you realise that some repairs are made long before they become necessary, and you have a quiet word with the boatswain. He gives you a long look, as if deciding whether to admit you to a secret society. Then, he takes you astern. Thing is, my lady, a sailor's life is boring. The mind wanders, and when it does, it turns to old sights and grievances. Too much of that, and we'll have to break up a fight and keel-haul some sad bugger. He taps the side of his nose. Better to keep 'em busy. It's a kindness. Genius. Absolutely genius. Well, there's nothing else for it. We're going to steal something. Plunder the stores. There's a guard on the door, but nobody will expect an entry from the sea-facing window. You wait for a quiet moment on deck, then vault over the rail, grappling your way down with some spare rope that sailors always seem to have lying around. Silent and unseen, you search the room, listening for tuneless whistling of the guard outside. There are a few interesting things in storage. You liberate enough to keep the trip interesting, but not enough for its absence to be noted. We got silk scrap, map scrap, 2 flasks of abdominal salts, 1 bottle of Greyfields, 1879, and another of 1882. I have 12,000 bottles of Greyfields. Where am I keeping that? I should really do something with that. I just go to my room in the Royal Bethlehem and there's just a wall of Greyfields. I guess we'll be playing cards here. I think we're just waiting for time to pass. It quickly becomes apparent that these contestants are not the blind drunk specimens common at the Wolfstack card tables. Worse, the ship has its own catalogue of Z-themed games, and just when you think you've grasped one, the dealer shifts to another. You hold your own at loose cannon, but the cards turn against you during Stem the Tide. When the dealer announces Slippery Stack, the alliterative card game of the lighthouse professional, you cut your losses. There's always next shift. Oh, we only lost 7 pennies, it'll be fine. Uh-oh. You stroll the deck of the Navy frigate, gazing across the inky wash of the rolling sea. What's that? Closing fast. From starboard. Spot a huge, alarming ripple beneath the surface. Uh-oh. It happens at shift change, a moment when the sailors are distracted. The Z swell widens and surges as it approaches a small tsunami in the dark. You find your voice split seconds before the watch officer does, but the thing is already too close to take action. The lieutenant grips the rail and yells, "Incoming! Starboard! Brace for impact!" A sickening crunch fills the air. The deck bucks beneath you, knocking stragglers off their feet. As you pull yourself upright, the ship groans and lists to starboard. The ship is in desperate peril. My character should not be allowed to go on boats. Things go so bad every time. The termagant is under monstrous attack. Immense tentacles wrap around the bow and squeeze. Wood cracks and fragments spray. Crew members rush to their stations, their eyes wild with terror. They are well trained, but this beast is colossal beyond the imagination. But we have three options here. We can attack the tentacle. You cannot make out the full size of the beast, but no creatures like having its extremities severed. 80% chance. We can burn the body with a signal flare. A nearby cabinet holds experimental pyrotechnics for distress signals. 40% chance. We can rally the crew. As the full size of the beast becomes apparent, morale, and thus crew performance, takes a sharp dip. A little encouragement might help that. Or we have an unorthodox recipe. The cook is on deck, searching for something. Can you assist? I'm unsure what's going to be the most interesting thing here. Attacking the tentacles, or using the cook. I'm drawn towards the cook, I'm not going to lie, so I think we're going to do the cook here. An unorthodox recipe. The cook seems remarkably calm as the ship is disassembled around him. He notices your fishy prize, and his eyes light up. "Excuse me," he says and grabs it, and peers at the flesh. "I got some spices or a deal with this big lad, if I can identify him." You try to explain the origin of your deep Z catch, but the cook has already discarded it. He pulls a vial from his jacket. "Chili powder and pork carnelian paprika this time. Never fails." He staggers to the rail. You lose sight of him amidst the crashing waves. Yet moments later, you hear an extraordinary, bestial screech. Where did those spices end up? Amazing. For the price of one deep sea catch, that seems more than worth it. Oh, it's still here. Cannons blaze. The flash illuminates a wall of stinking flesh, rank with brine. High above, something unseen roars. Well, let's attack the tentacle. 80% chance of success. What is the worst that could happen? A torn bulkhead provides a slicing weapon with a lacerating edge. You wait until a tentacle surges forward, stretching down on the hold. Then you step from hiding and swing your impromptu cleaver with all your might. Your aim is true, and the blade cuts through the hide of the tentacle. The severed section writhes wildly across the deck, whilst the stump pulls back. Exposed strands of muscle rippling from the wound. You've damaged it, but the assault continues. The monster seems to shrug off your attacks. Oh no. We could try and rally the crew. You recall a Z shanty about a plucking steamer crew who defeated a fearsome Z monster and made a hearty meal of its gizzards. You mount the forecastle, fill your lungs, and blast it out at a hopefully inspirational volume. Maintaining the song is exhausting against the roaring of the beast and the tossing of the deck, but it reaches a few crew members at the guns. Recognition crosses their faces. They bend to their task with new determination. Oh, we have a new few options here. You duck as a lesser tentacle whips past your ear. It seizes a section of gunwale and rips it out of the hull, brandishing it high in triumph. We can take over a deck gun. Its former occupant is, at this moment, screaming 25 feet above your head, gripped by a tentacle. We can save a lifeboat. If more of the ship's superstructure collapses, the boat will be dragged under, and it looks like you're going to need it. Or we can do something acrobatic and inadvisable. A rope flaps loose from the mast. With a good run-up, you could swing yourself up and strike a blow against, well, whatever's up there. Yes, 100%. A heroic pose. In the flickering lantern light, you see an undamaged stretch of deck. You take a few steps back and study the movements of the rope. When the moment is right, you charge. The rope flaps out at just the right second. You grab it and your momentum carries you in a wide arc up and away from the lopsided deck. A flash from the forecastle illuminates a ghastly array of yellow teeth and sinuous tongue. As if posing for the cover of a penny dreadful, you pull your weapon and strike deep into the flesh of the tongue. Immediately, you are deafened by the shuddering cry of the beast and half-cooked by its stinking breath. But your attack causes it to hesitate as you swing back to the deck. Amazing. Something pounds the deck behind you. Once, twice, 3 times. In the lantern light, you see dented and split boards. The integrity of the entire structure is failing. Well, let's take over a deck gun. You recall a late night with an old salt who told stories of being boarded near the Ragged Crow. First time around, the pirates were Carganian, but with each repetition and new drinks, they increased in threat level. Devils, claymen, Z-spiders, bound sharks with men's legs, and finally something so horrifying that his powers of description failed and he fell unconscious in his pint. One thing that remained constant, however, was the mechanical description of the gun he fired. Find you can operate this one, like the old deckhand. You open fire. The creature is wounded and very, very angry. The deck tilts again. A surge of salty spray douses yourself and surviving crew members. Closer now. The waves are bleak and cold. Victory? The monster wails and collapses like a punctured zeppelin. Its full weight descends upon the HMS Termagant. The superstructure of the Termagant, already pushed beyond its limits, cannot handle the additional weight. The hull snaps and splinters, tearing across its midriff. Bow and stern rise out of the waves, while the centre of the deck collapses. A valley of splintered edges slowly descending. You grab a rail and look for the other ships in the task force. More of the beast's tentacles have a death grip on the second frigate, while the corvette is nowhere to be seen. You can expect no help from that quarter. You slide across the deck, heading for a lifeboat with the remaining crew. You're within 6 feet when a flailing tentacle seizes you. There are only seconds to struggle before it drags you into the Z, freezing water closing over your head. And now we are floating. You are alive. You are cold to the bones. You are in the water. You can see nothing. But on this wonderful cliffhanger, I think I'm going to end the first episode here. So, thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, let me know what you think. Your comments are greatly appreciated. And assumingly, next week, we'll either float away to success or succumb to the inevitable. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.